Hi everybody, my name is Jens Larsen. If you want to learn how to play jazz guitar, you want to check out the rhythm changes. It's an essential progression and there are a lot of songs that are using those chord changes, and of course also the progressions found within the rhythm changes are so common that you're gonna come across them and you can use that in a lot of other songs. In this video I want to show you a basic set of chords that you can use if you want to play the rhythm changes. Then I'm going to talk about how you can develop that so that you can come up with a lot more variation. First by taking the basic voicings and making them into 3-note rootless voicings, then starting to make variations on that, still thinking about the same voicing. So really we're just going to start with the basic voicings and we're kind of going to stick with those as a way of association and just add on top of them. And at the end of the video I'm also going to show you how you can start adding even more notes and getting more colors out of that. If you want to learn more about jazz guitar, about improvising over chord changes, checking out some interesting arpeggios or chord voicings, then subscribe to my channel. If you want to make sure not to miss anything, then click the little bell notification icon next to the subscribe button. We don't really need that many different chords to play the rhythm changes, because essentially if you look at a rhythm changes A part, then it's 3 times the same 2-bar progression, which is a turnaround, in this case in the key of B flat, and then it's a short cadence to the 4th degree and then going back from the 4th degree to the turnaround. Really for the first 2 bars, just to cover that, B flat major 7 to G7 flat 9, C minor 7, and then F7. And then the second 2 bars, that's just the same thing. So B flat major 7, G7, C minor 7, F7. Then we get 2 bars that are going to the 4th degree. So a cadence to the 4th degree. So the 4th degree of B flat major is E flat. So the cadence we have here is a 2, 5, 1 and E flat. So F minor 7 to B flat 7 and then to E flat major. And most commonly there are a few ways to go from this E flat major and then back to the tonic. The most common one is probably the diminished, so from E flat major and then to E diminished, and then we go back to the turnaround. So E flat, G7, C minor, F7, and then we go back on B flat major. Right now I use a diminished chord, so a sharp 4 diminished, to go back from the 4th degree to the tonic, and that's a common way of doing that. Another very common way that I think deserves a mention is to use 4 minor, and the way that you mostly will see the 4 minor used is as a backdoor dominant, and that's as a flat 7 dominant. So that means that we have this progression in bar 5 and 6, F minor 7, B flat 7, and then to E flat major, and then instead of going to E diminished you can also go to A flat 7 and then use that to go to B flat, the last turnaround. If you want to see a more general way of how I work with chords and come up with the voicings that I just went over for the rhythm changes, then you should check out the video I made called How to Play Jazz Chords, because that's sort of a few set of exercises where you learn how to deal with all the diatonic chords and also how to play cadences and thinking of 2/5s as one thing, and really a practical way to approach playing jazz chords in a very simple way. The next thing we can do is to take these basic voicings and then make them into rootless voicings, just to have some more compact sounding and more flexible voicings to work with when we're comping. Really what I'm doing is just, if this is B flat major 7, I'm just throwing away the low B flat, the bass note, and playing the voicing like this. You will probably choose a slightly different fingering for the top part here, because that's gonna be, and you're gonna figure that out along the way, because that really depends on what kind of stuff you're going to do with the melody of this chord. So if we have the B flat, that becomes this. G7 flat 9 becomes this. Of course the C minor and the F7. So that might sound like this if you do it through the A part. The first way you want to make variations with your rootless voicings is to change the top note melody. So for the B flat major 7, we're just going to use really just notes that are close by in the scale that will work with the chord. And that's for the B flat probably just mostly going to be the G right now. Now the G7, so we have this G7 flat 9. You can also use a sharp 9, so, and then we have the C minor 7. Well, here I'm actually just going to reach up for another chord note, chord tone, and that's going to be the 7th. And and then the F7. Now here I'm playing an F7 altered. Of course you can play it with, until now we actually played it with a natural 9. Now I'm playing it with first a sharp 9 and then a flat 9, which is possible too. You can color these chords pretty much in any way you want to. That's really going to depend on what piece you're playing and whoever you're comping behind. And then we're back on the B flat major 7. And then that's the same for the B flat major 7 and the G7. Then on the C minor 7. Now I'm going down to C minor 11. So change the chord and have an F instead of a G in the melody. Up to the G. Then again F7 altered. F minor 7. So if I take the F minor 7 here, then I'm not using the F, so I have this, and then I'm changing the top note from a 9 to a root, and then back up, B flat 7, and then first a 13, flat 13 to take us to the E flat, E flat major 7, and then the E diminished. So here that's the one that's closest. On the E diminished, you could do... So the scale that goes with this one is a D harmonic minor scale in the key of B flat. And the F is not such a nice note to use. So you can go up, take the A like I did here, or you can go down and take the E. That will work as well. And then we get B flat major 7. The G7. So here I'm not using the sharp 9, I'm going from the flat 9 down to the root, because that works as well. Down to the C minor 7, and then F7, again an altered. So if I play that through the piece in time, that sounds like this. When I'm working with these rootless voicings, I'm still just thinking it out of the basic shape that we started with. So I'm still thinking kind of like this one. Even though I'm playing something else, it's just still thinking this and then only playing a part of it. And I'm actually also still thinking about this one if I start changing the melody note. It's pretty much one thing, and I think that's a nicer way to think about chords, because if they're chained together and you're thinking about the chords as variations on the same thing, then you're a lot more flexible, and it's a lot easier to come up with some interesting lines when you're comping, because half of what makes it interesting to listen to in terms of comping is that you can play some really solid melodies. And if you have to think about a million different chord voicings, that's very difficult. Now the last thing I want to talk about is that you can also take these rootless 3-note voicings and then turn them into 4-note voicings by, instead of changing the melody, we're going to do the same as what I did when I was trying to come up with other melody notes. But I'm going to add the new note, not on a string where I already have a note, but I'm going to add it on the top string. So I'm going to add it up here. And then you could get this for the rhythm section A part. Most of these voicings you might recognize also as drop 2 voicings. So really, this exercise where I'm sort of taking this triad shape here and then adding a note up here is constructing drop 2 voicings most of the time. So you can kind of recognize them as that, and of course you might be checking out drop 2 voicings, at least you probably should. The advantage to checking it out like this is that we are starting with something that's already something that we can use when we're comping, because it's connected to this, this, and this. And then we're just kind of making this voicing by just looking at, well, I'm playing that like this, so I can just grab this one. I can also maybe have this melody note. And that's what I'm using here. And the next one. So here I can use difference on the G7. I have these two available. Could even reach up and do this one probably. If you think like that, then you can combine all the material that we went over until now, and then you can get something like this. In this way you can develop how you comp on rhythm changes. If you want to check out how to solo on this progression, then I have this video that you can check out with the 3 different approaches to making lines on that turnaround. And of course, if this is the first time you see one of my videos, then subscribe to my channel. And if you want to help me keep making videos, then check out my Patreon page. Thank you for watching, and until next time.